Guys, and welcome to today's video. Now today is the 10th of September, but it is also a special day because it is World Suicide Prevention Day. Now this day happens every year on the same day, the 10th. It's a day where everybody can ask questions, raise awareness, speak out about suicide and how bad it has gotten lately, how many people are affected by it, and just to get to understand it better. Every year there's a different theme that they like to put out, and this year's theme is Care, Connect, Communicate. So Triple C, Care, Connect, Communicate. And it's all about talking and getting involved, how you can stop somebody from taking that final step into suicide before it's too late. Now, I am not gonna sit here and be a hypocrite and say that suicide isn't the answer, and that say that suicide is a bad choice or any of those words, because for me, if you've watched from day one, you will know this, but if you're new, you will know that I tried suicide. I had a few attempts, but there was one attempt where there was a big attempt, I will say, that I actually took the tablets and I was waiting for it all to take effect before I decided this wasn't right for me and I threw them all up. Basically, short story told. So I'm not going to sit here and say that suicide is bad and suicide is horrible and suicide isn't real and is attention seeking, because I took that step and I have felt those feelings, I have done the deed, but I have survived it. So I get a unique perspective of being somebody who has felt what it's like to think about committing suicide, to then actually trying it, but then also to be on the other side of it and come out of the other end of it and survive it. So I sort of have a unique perspective on what it's like to really be suicidal. People who have suicidal thoughts or even mention the word suicide, there is a lot of stigma attached to that word. People hear it and think people are being attention seeking, or that it isn't really real, and that how could possibly anyone really want to end their life, and it just doesn't make sense to them. And I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those people before my depression, before my mental health got really bad. I was that person. I did not understand what could drive somebody to want to end their life, but I did. I took that step and I was in that dark hole of despair and loneliness and just nothing but empty, but filled with pain, and it just, everything hurt, but then there was nothing as well. It was just a mixture of emptiness, darkness and pain all mixed up into one, and it was impossible to live through. Suicide is a really serious issue. It's not for attention seeking, it's not anything like that. It is when somebody is seriously considering the fact that they don't want to live at all. Anything in this life could not tempt them to stay, that nothing you could give them could tempt them enough to want to live an extra minute. And that is really scary. I remember when I was at that stage, I had a family. I had my mum, I had my sisters, and I loved them, and it wasn't their fault. You know, they hadn't done anything. And as much as I loved them and as much as I loved being a part of my family, that wasn't enough. Their love wasn't enough because I wasn't enough. Talking to people who are suicidal or have suicidal feelings, or who are just depressed or have any type of mental illness, can be hard, because that person can be so deep into that hole and that darkness that any attempts that other people are making are sort of useless. It just takes somebody to ask the right questions, to just be persistent and ask, are you okay? And just sort of really show that they care. But you also have to be prepared for the other person who's struggling through this to not take your attempts to heart. Because when anyone ever asked me, you know, if I wanted to hang out or if I was okay, I'd mistake it as pity, and that made me feel worse. And if you really think that somebody is in danger to themselves, then you need to tell somebody. My perspective on suicide is obviously very different now I've gone through it. I have a unique perspective in the fact that I tried suicide and I survived it. I have a different outlook on it. I understand people who feel like suicide is their only option. I understand why people can choose it, but I can also offer them reasons to keep going. Even though a lot of crap has happened in my life since my suicide attempt, I mean a lot of bad stuff has happened in my life, I am a lot stronger from that suicide attempt. Since I decided to take my own life, I have gotten stronger. The things that used to and would have broken me before the suicide attempt don't break me now. But does it mean that I don't get those feelings anymore? No. If you are suicidal, you're gonna battle those feelings for probably the rest of your life. When I am having a bad course in my life and my days are horrible and I'm like, seriously, did I survive suicide for this? Did I really choose to live another day for this kind of life? A life full of pain, a life full of sadness where nothing good happens. But you also have to realise that your depression lies. Your depression manipulates your mind and it lies. Good things happen along with the bad things. Your depression only wants you to focus on the negative, and it manipulates the negative to be even more negative. But you have to be smarter than that. You have to look for something good in every day. It doesn't matter if it's something as tiny as seeing something funny or listening to a song that made you smile. It can be as tiny as that. It doesn't have to be a huge, big thing to happen. But you have to look for something good in every day, because your depression will just take everything. It will take every single part of you and destroy it. If you don't put up a fight, and if you don't keep fighting back every day, then it wins. I talk to a therapist now, and I know how important it is to talk. Before my suicide attempt, I didn't talk to anybody. I kept my feelings hidden away because I was ashamed. I was ashamed of myself, of my feelings. There was no logical reason why I should be feeling this way, and there was just something wasn't right with me. And in a world that is not really accepting of mental illnesses, to then be out loud and say that you have one is scary, and it made me want to hide away. And when you want to say that, oh, I self-harm, I have feelings about killing myself, that's the last thing you want to talk about. But once I survived my suicide attempt, I knew that I could not go on living the way I had, because then it'd just lead to another attempt. The next time I'd go through with it fully. So I speak to somebody every week. I go to a therapist for an hour every single week. And for that hour, I talk. I talk from things that have happened in childhood or things that have happened during the week. Nothing is off limits. I just talk and get it all off my chest. And there's no judgment. There is nothing. Sometimes it's just good to say it out loud. You just need to say that, you know what, for no reason, I want to cry today, and that is okay. And there's one thing that I have learned through all of it is it doesn't have to be a logical reason or a scientific reason for why you feel a way. You feel it because you feel it, and that should be enough. You feel it, so you feel it. You don't have to define your feelings for other people. You feel what you feel, and that should be okay. So every week I talk about my feelings, and I have got a lot better since I started talking to people, because even though I don't really talk about it to my family, I've got better at verbalizing it when I know that I need more help. But just having somebody that I can trust and that I could talk to just share every feeling with, every scary thought, get tips and tricks and guidance on how to go through life while dealing with suicidal thoughts or my depression, it's a lot better, because locking your feelings away, it might work for now, but sooner or later they're just going to burst open that door when you least expect it, and you will not be able to close that door again. That is one big thing I learned, is you can't hide your feelings forever. I used to hide my feelings and shut them behind a door and just avoid them at all costs. But eventually, once you've pushed so many feelings behind a door, it's full, and it's just going to burst open, and you can't shut that door again, and they all come flowing out at once. So it's better to deal with them when they come up, work your way through them, than just shut them away and hide them, because that isn't helping anyone, let alone yourself. Suicide is a hard topic for me. It always will be. It's a thing that I feel very strongly about. It's something that I think definitely needs to be spoken about a lot more, because when I attempted it, it was known that if you spoke about suicide, that you were doing it for attention, and nobody knew that I had attempted suicide until I told my doctor. Not my family, nobody knew it, because I was ashamed, and I knew that if I spoke it out loud, then it would be even worse than hiding it away. But suicide is real, and it's scary, and for anyone that is feeling like suicide is the only option, I urge you, before you take that final step, to just talk to somebody, just to see if it makes a difference. There's helplines, there's your doctors, there's websites, or read brochures or anything, just to see if it makes a difference. Now that I have come through the other side of it, and I speak to people, and I am still living, even though I'm being put through hell in other aspects of my life. But I don't regret my suicide attempt. I don't. I am thankful that I did it, because it has made me a lot stronger, and it's made me more wiser, and it's also helped me get further on in my mental health by finally admitting that I need help, that thoughts about killing yourself isn't thoughts that I should be having, and that I need to speak to people. So I urge anybody that has similar thoughts about wanting to end their life, that read about it, speak to somebody, and look for something good in every day. It does not matter if it is as tiny as a joke, or something made you smile, or you just didn't feel crap for a second. That can be the good for the day, and once you start looking for the little goods in the day, your depression, it's easier to spot when it starts to manipulate you. So if you would like to know more about suicide and get involved with anything today, use the hashtag WSPD16, and that will link you all onto everything to do with suicide prevention and just getting to know more about suicide, because it is a real thing. People need to know about it, and people need to be aware that people shouldn't feel like suicide is their only option in life when they feel so alone. They need to know that they have other options. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye guys.